customer experience, tell us what's your view on bringing that to life, both currently and with the changes coming down the line?
Yeah, look, I mean, I kind of touched on that on one of the previous questions. I think customer experience, as with anything, is absolutely critical to get it right. And I think, as an industry, open banking probably generally has been maybe a bit guilty of kind of like always over-rotating towards the next feature or functionality that's going to come down the road that's going to like suddenly unlock everything. But I think what we've seen recently, and I say recently over the last maybe 12 to 24 months, is we've seen actually, a lot of innovation that's already coming on the current scope. And what we've seen there is people, of course, that's been helped by the different partners across the industry, improving the quality and the availability of the services that are available. But we've seen, service providers get much smarter in terms of how we streamline the UX as much as possible, removing unnecessary friction, getting smarter in terms of how like consumer consents are positioned into the overall journey, so it's more natural for the consumer. And so I think that is that is a really key driver. And I think more and more people have actually like started to deliver value propositions which are a little bit more holistic. If you look at some of maybe the early use cases, it was around very basic stuff, balances, transactions, etc., in an aggregated fashion, which I think is nice and tidy. But I think where the real value was delivered over time is when you started combining that with real hooks that added value to the consumer, like combining wealth services, for example, driving loyalty programs, etc., etc. So I think, that's a whole picture of like consumer experience and value that is really starting to drive a little bit of traction. And of course, I think, two things are going to happen. We're going to get smarter at that in terms of how we continually optimize the UX. There's lots of bits and pieces around return users and, other bits of functionality that can help with that. But I think, continuing to expand the scope, as you mentioned, the regulation, by adding in more and more services that can, in some ways complete the picture and deliver on the full promise. We already see that in other markets like Brazil, for example. Very, very different situation than the UK, of course, so that wouldn't want to emphasize that too much. But, they are showing the potential of what's to come.